FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried just keeps on racking up the charges. We now have his fifth superseding indictment, which was filed a couple of days ago because SBF was caught bribing government officials in China back in 2021 to the tune of $40 million so that they could unfreeze over $1 billion in cryptocurrency assets that were being held by Chinese authorities belonging to Alameda Research. Damn, dude. 40 mil to unfreeze 1 bill in crypto. This SBF guy was being a greedy bastard even when he was bribing people to commit fraud for him. But I guess 4% was good enough for this Chinese government official because around November 2021, the bribe was sent, cryptocurrency to a private wallet, the accounts were unfrozen, and the cryptocurrency was then transferred out and used to fund additional Alameda trading activity. He also used additional customer funds to make political donations during the 2022 midterms, the vast majority of which went to Democrats. Now, these are donations that SBF made in his own name. You can see right here, Sam Bankman-Fried, FTX.US. And this $38 million was enough for him to be the sixth biggest donor overall and second only to George Soros for the biggest liberal majority donor. But this is only the case when we compare the official donations, because Sam Bankman-Fried also made tens of millions of dollars in straw donations that are done in someone else's name to conceal the identity of the true donor. SBF used Alameda to siphon off FTX's customer funds so that he could curry favor with candidates that would help pass legislation favorable to FTX and SBF. And this was actually a bipartisan effort, according to the latest indictment against SBF. Part of the reason that SBF made these straw contributions in the first place was to try and protect his image. He didn't want his name to be associated with any Republican candidates, but he also didn't want to be seen as a left-leaning partisan like George Soros. So I guess whenever his donation history got too far from just wanting to grill, then he would start doing donations under the name of two other FTX executives who are referred to as CC1 and CC2 in the indictment. A political consultant working for SBF informed CC1 that in general, they would be the center-left face of the company's spending and that they would have to give a lot to woke shit for transactional purposes, such as donations to pro-LGBTQ candidates. And CC1 actually expressed some discomfort to this since their name would be attached to these political contributions that are in the tens of millions, but they agreed that nobody working at FTX who was bi or gay or I guess would have a genuine interest in those causes would be trusted with these schemes that they were pulling. And then on top of this, they falsified the balance sheets at Alameda to further obscure where the donations were coming from. SBF and his co-conspirators recorded the outgoing wire transfers as loans or expenses, except that these outgoing wire payments were not documented in any agreements or on any term sheets, and there were no set interest rates for them, there were no interest payments for them, no collateral, and no evidence of a repayment. You know, all of the things that you would expect to see with loans or expenses. Alameda basically had two copies of their accounting books, a totally legit trust me bro copy that they would send off to their regulators, and a super secret one that internally noted over $100 million in political contributions, even though FEC records reflect zero contributions from Alameda in 2022. So when we add that $100 million of obfuscated political contributions to the amount that SBF was actually willing to put his name on, it turns out that he was the biggest donor, even outbidding George Soros. But this still only accounts for about 1% of the money that SBF was able to make vanish. When he was looking for bailouts from existing and potential investors, SBF supplied to them with what he purported to be FTX's balance sheet, and it showed that FTX had approximately $9.6 billion in assets versus $8.9 billion in liabilities, which would yield them a positive net equity of about $700 million. But the balance sheet also noted that FTX had an additional liability of $8 billion in hidden, poorly internally labeled account. But in reality, this account was the multi-billion-dollar entry on FTX's ledger, reflecting the amount of FTX customer fiat deposits that were accepted into Alameda's bank accounts that had not been maintained for the benefit of customers or repaid to FTX. Now, of course, SBF was not able to build this crypto empire all on his own. He had co-conspirators like Gary Wang and Caroline Ellison, who have already pled guilty to wire fraud and conspiracy to commit securities fraud, and they have been cooperating with the authorities. But the lawsuits span far beyond the people working for FTX and Alameda Research. Lots of people shilled FTX when you visited their page back in the day, back in June of last year. You would see all of these different celebrities on the front page. You'd see people like Steph Curry, you would see Tom Brady, all of these people, these mega celebrities that endorsed FTX, and lawsuits have been filed against these people. But you know, most of these celebrities are not people that you would take financial advice from, right? Like if you go and watch Steph Curry's now deleted video promoting FTX, the whole idea behind it was he's not an expert in crypto, but thanks to FTX, he doesn't need to be. But finance YouTubers, a lot of people do unfortunately take financial advice from these guys, and they helped funnel suckers right into SBF's personal wallet. So a $1 billion class action complaint has been made against a bunch of different YouTubers as well, like Kevin Paffrath, Graham Stephan, and Minority Mindset. All of these creators shilled FTX, and of course, you can go and see their cringy apology videos that they made a few months ago when the news about FTX came out, and claiming that, oh, I didn't know so much about it, even though the whole point of their platforms, their YouTube channels, is that they're financial experts, and they specifically shilled things like FTX's yield-bearing accounts, which were basically illegal, unregulated securities. Now, even though the case against the finance YouTubers might be better than the case against the athletes, I still don't see anywhere near $1 billion being made from this. I mean, I seriously doubt all of these guys even have a combined net worth of $1 billion. But that's not even why I don't think they're going to pay it. Honestly, the only people that I think are going to make any money off of this are the lawyers, the YouTubers' lawyers specifically, because at the end of the day, they didn't have any additional insight into FTX besides what was public. Like, they knew as much about FTX as anybody else who was willing to do their own research would know. They weren't employees of FTX. They weren't officers or agents of FTX. They were just paid to endorse it on YouTube. And they probably mentioned in their endorsements that when you put crypto in a centralized exchange where you don't have the private keys, then it's not really your crypto. I mean, that's something that anybody who's going to deal with crypto should understand. So yeah, it really sucks that the people who invested their money with the bank man aren't going to get it back. And unfortunately, things like this are probably going to keep happening in the crypto space because so many people want to put their money into it. They want to try to make a quick buck, but they don't even understand the basics. Like, I remember a few years ago when I was talking to a guy about cryptocurrency on the train, I brought up public key cryptography. one of the fundamental technologies that all of these cryptocurrencies are based on, and he didn't know what I was talking about. The Bankman may very well end up spending several decades in jail. I remember seeing headlines when this stuff first went down saying that he may face 115 years, but that was like 5 indictments ago. So he may very well end up never being a free man again, but that money is gone. Always remember, not your keys, not your coins. And you probably shouldn't trust a guy whose middle name is Bankman.